Hey guys, welcome back. Today we are going to be swapping out the motor, rim, tire, and tube on this monster 100 volt V3. Well, so to let you know why we're going to be doing this, the person who owns this particular wheel was going very fast and the wheel cut out on him. He slid across the ground. The wheel turned and flipped and rolled and everything else, and the rim came to rest up against the curb and bent it right here, and it's actually cracked on the underside right back in here. So obviously it's a mess. That's the only visible damage as of right now. Hopefully there isn't any more when we open it up. But today we are going to go through how you change the motor, rim, and all of this on the 100 volt Monster V3. So let's get straight to it. First thing we're going to have to do is we're going to use a Phillips screwdriver and we're going to remove these screws. We also have to remove the pedal so that we can get that off. And then there are 3 more screws under here. So I'm going to explain what we're going to do like I just did, and then I'm going to just fast forward through all of the steps. If there's something that I feel needs to be explained, I will stop and explain it. Okay, let's get started. The first thing we're going to need to do is remove the pedal, and in order to do that you're going to need a 5mm Allen wrench. And so I'm going to take this off real quick. Okay, don't lose those 2 little things. They're spacers that go between the pedal and the pedal post. Set them right over here. Okay, now that this is off, we are going to need to use a Phillips screwdriver to take off 13 screws. Once we get those off, that will enable us to open up this side panel, and then we can proceed from there. Okay, now that we have removed all the screws, we need to remove this panel. Now, if you've never removed the panel before, you're going to have some double-sided tape on the battery. So you're going to have one big battery right here, you're going to have your control board here, and your speakers here. So there will be double-sided tape over here on the battery. You're going to want to be careful when you pull that up. There we go. So a couple items that I did just notice right away from the crash is it appears that right here both of these pieces of the shell have been broken off, and that is what holds the panel down here. So now the first thing that I'm going to do before we do anything else is remove power from the wheel. Okay, so I'm going to just come over here and I'm going to take this, I'm going to disconnect this XT90 right here, boom. And what that's going to do is that's going to remove the power that was going to the main board. Now that we have the XT90 disconnected, I am going to hold the power button down, which will drain the capacitors. Okay, they are empty. So now what I need to do is we need to remove these 10 screws. There's going to be 10 more on the other side, and then we would need to remove these motor wires as well as the hall sensor, and that's going to allow us to drop the motor out the bottom. So for this one, we are going to be using a 5/32. With those out, the only thing we need to do now is remove these motor wires and the hall sensor. So we're going to need to get the silicone out of the way so that we can get this off without breaking anything. There we go. Now for the motor wires. So now with this, you want to be very careful that you pull them straight off the board and you do not break the connector on the board. 1, 2, Alright, I'm just going to go ahead and set this aside. We are going to end up pulling this down and out through here. This side, as you can see, is done. But what we need to do now is we need to flip the EUC over and get the other side. But we don't want to damage anything, so I'm going to essentially set this back on without actually attaching it, just long enough to flip it over. And you do not want to pick up by the shell at this point because it's disconnected, so you're going to want to pick up by the pedal. Okay, there's that. Same thing over here. We're going to remove the pedal and then the screws and then open it up. So I'm just going to fast forward past all this. Okay, got double-sided tape. I don't see any immediate damage on this side. That's good. Alright, so we're just going to do the same thing here and take those off. If you're wondering, these do not come with it. These are extra speakers that I've put in, and this is the LED controller. It actually has Bluetooth in it, and it has a microphone, so it can go to the beat of the music, change the lights and whatever. I'm going to link to everything down below, all the tools that were used. I'll go ahead and I'll put a link to the LED kit, as well as some servo wires, and the speakers that we added, all that stuff. Okay, so now that we have this done, the motor will be ready to come out, but we need to get it standing upright first, so, or at least at the very least flip it over. So what I'm going to do now is put this piece back on, set it there, flip the wheel over because we need to feed the motor wires out. Now that we have that out, we should be able to slide this out. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to just kind of lift a little bit and slide the wheel out. Okay, so look at this damage. I'm just going to hold this up for a second so you can see it. Look at the damage to this. See if I can flip it over. It's fully cracked right there on the inside. Yeah. Here is the new replacement wheel from eWheels. Thank you, Jason, for getting this out so quickly so I could get this person's wheel fixed and ready to go. Alright, same story on this one. I'm just going to feed it back in, and as soon as I can, I'm going to start to put the motor wires back up and in there. This is interesting. This has a very short motor wire. Interesting. Hope that doesn't play a role here. Let's get the hall sensor up first, since it's so long. Go. There we go. All right. Now with that said, I can try and slide the wheel up the rest of the way. There we go. All right, so we have an issue. The issue is that it would appear that whatever wheel Jason sent is not for this.
Hello?
Hey.
Hey.
So there's an issue.
Okay.
The motor that he sent you has very short leads coming out of it, almost as if it's for a different version. I feel like this motor's for a V2, not a V3. So here's the problem. Only two of the wires will reach the board in its current, how it is, which leaves two options. One option is you ship this motor back to him and he ships you another one. Hopefully it's the right one this time. The other option is I extend these motor wires. Okay, so what do you want to do?
I'm leaning towards let's just go ahead and extend the wires, and that way I can go on the ride.
You want to extend the wires using the wires off the other?
Yeah, I think that would probably be the safest bet.
Okay, all right, I'm going to get to doing that.
Okay, I really appreciate it. Thanks, brother.
Yep, see ya.
Later.
Okay, here's what we're going to do. We are going to extend these. We're going to cut them and extend them. So I'm just going to strip these back just a little bit here. Cut the yellow one right off. Okay, and here are the sides from the other one. Wow, this is just crazy that we're even doing this, but whatever. So I'm just going to strip these back just a little. We're going to get this going right now. Start with the yellow. There we go. See if I can zoom this in a little for you. Okay guys, so back to talking to you about swapping the motor out. What you have seen here with the need to solder is not normal. You wouldn't typically have to do this. The reason that this occurred, I believe, is because we were sent a 100 volt V2 monster motor rather than a V3. I believe that this motor is intended for a monster that has the control board horizontal rather than vertical like this one is. And the reason I say that is because that would make sense as to why the wires are shorter. They wouldn't need to go as far. One thing I need to do really quick though is this little solder splash down in here. I want to get that out of there. We don't need any solder coming in contact with the board, causing a short. This part's pretty simple, just reverse what we did earlier. Notice that I'm going kind of catty corner as I'm putting these in. Alright, that's all that. See if I push all this down. Good. Motor wire there. Hall sensor wire there. Everything's good to go there. These are fine, that's fine. Okay, everything's good there, there. All right, we are going to plug this in, get some power to it, flip it over, put it back together. Works perfect. So now I'm just going to go ahead and put the rest of the screws in. There it is, that's the motor swap on the 100 volt Gotway Monster V3, and even had a little bit extra because we had to cut this and extend the motor wires on the replacement motor that was sent, because I do believe it was for a V2 with the horizontal mounted board. Whatever, it works, we've tested it, motor swap, mission accomplished. There it is, I'll see you guys next time.